In George Orwell's 1984, devices called telescreens are set up in every room and constantly watch and listen to members of the party. Orwell continually displays the pervasiveness in telescreens throughout 1984. The telescreen received and transmitted simultaneously. Any sound that Winston made, above the level of a very low whisper, would be picked up by it. Moreover, so long as he remained within the field of vision which the metal plaque commanded, he could be seen as well as heard. Orwell 3. It was terribly dangerous to let your thoughts wander when you were in any public space or within range of a telescreen. The smallest thing could give you away. A nervous tic, an unconscious look of anxiety, a habit of muttering to yourself, anything that carried with it the suggestion of abnormality, of having something to hide. 62. Whichever way you turned, the telescreen faced you. 110. In general, you cannot assume that you were much safer in the country than in London. There were no telescreens, of course, but there was always the danger of concealed microphones by which your voice might be picked up and recognized. 117. He thought of the telescreen with its never-sleeping ear. They could spy upon you night and day. 166. These current headlines illustrate how much Orwell's telescreens have seeped into everyday life. In 2006, the FBI used the microphones in the cell phones of two alleged mobsters to listen in on their conversations. This is legal because it only recorded the conversations that took place near the phones, not the actual people. The federal wiretapping law is actually very broad and has many loopholes. So although the chances are slim to none that the government is listening to any civilians, the technology that permits them to do so is available. But something even scarier than the FBI watching you is the fact that when you give an app camera and microphone access, you're really giving them access to so much more. By doing this, it enables the app to record from the front and back cameras anytime the app is open, upload any videos or pictures it takes, and make a live stream of your cameras. And all this without getting your permission a second time. So while you might need to enable access to the camera to use Snapchat, you could be putting yourself at risk. Nowadays, listening in on conversations has become even easier. With one of the new iOS updates, owners of Apple phones can use the live listening mode with their AirPods to hear anything that happens near their phone's microphone. While intended for people that are hard of hearing, this application proves to be great for spying. There is nothing on the lock screen that indicates that live listening is running, so without a password, no one will even know that it's on. Free apps such as Life 360 and Find My iPhone enables users to track exactly where family members and friends are. You only need permission from them once, and after that you can see their location at any time, trusting that they have power on their phone. These apps are widely advertised, free, and easy to set up, so anyone with a smartphone can track others and be tracked. While these apps locate phones and not the actual people, there is often not enough of a difference nowadays to cause a problem. Because everyone carries their phone around with them everywhere they go, their locations are always readily available. This actually means that finding a person's location is easier today than it is in 1984, because Winston and Julia are able to go out into the country to escape telescreens, whereas our phones follow us wherever we go. And the scariest part about these last two things is that anyone with a phone can do them. So even though it's only the government watching everyone in 1984, today, everyone can watch everyone else. New technology is being developed where smartphones can read emotions based on things like how much the phone shakes, how fast the user types, and how often the backspace is pressed. The developer thinks that this could be used to detect when people are stressed or upset and cheer them up with upbeat ringtones and nice messages. However, this could be used, like in 1984, to help the government figure out which people are feeling dissent. While a bit unreliable, it would do its job more effectively than the telescreens and thought police in 1984 because it would be able to see through good acting. People can change their facial expressions easily enough, but it's much more difficult to control the way you type. Another reason this could make it easier for the government to find discontent is that it would be detected by the phone itself. With this kind of technology, no one would need to sit around and monitor everyone through telescreens because their phones could send a signal alerting the government of suspicious activity. Most of us are constantly receiving notifications all day long, whether that means emails, texts, Snapchats, or news updates. This overloads our brains, making us tired and miserable, and also prevents deep thinking. This is due to higher levels of a neurotransmitter called GABA, which slows down the neurons, therefore making us unfocused. This is very similar to 1984, where Julie and Winston have trouble reading Emmanuel Goldstein's book because they keep falling asleep. The party has stopped most higher-level thinking with the constant blaring of the telescreens. Before smartphones, we used to have time alone just to think, but now we are usually on our phones. During the short time that we're not on our phones, we're usually still thinking about what is on our phones. Another downside to the lack of sitting down and thinking is that empathy requires solitude, so it's actually making us less empathetic as a whole. One of the worst parts of the problems that come with smartphones is that we are the ones that continue to use them. Unlike in 1984, where the party ensures that there is a telescreen in every room, we are the ones that always use our phones. There's nothing that says that we always have to have our phones with us, or that anyone even has to have a phone, yet almost everyone does. We bring everything onto ourselves. In fact, a majority of us have become addicted to our smartphones. The average person checks their phones every 12 minutes, not including while they sleep, which turns into about 80 times a day that the average person checks their phone. When they don't have their phones, some people even experience withdrawal, where symptoms may include increased heart rate and blood pressure. The negative effects of smartphones reach almost everyone. In the US, 77% of all people own a smartphone, with 94% of people from the age of 18 to the age of 29 owning a smartphone. We also see that about 25% of children under the age of 7 already own a smartphone, and that 75% of those who do have data on it. More and more young people have smartphones, as it is with most newer technology, so the percentage of people that own smartphones will most likely increase as time goes on and older people know how to use smartphones. As more people get smartphones and they become even more ingrained in our culture, I predict that the side effects that come with phones will become even more severe. Additionally, the fact that smartphones have only really been a thing for a little over 10 years means that we don't even know the true repercussions that they could have, so this might be just the tip of the iceberg. One way in which we can all help to solve the problems surrounding smartphones is by getting rid of them altogether. Phones like the light phone, which were made for this very reason, only allow very basic functions such as calling and setting alarms. Because most people, especially younger generations, only really use smartphones for social media, it would solve a big part of the problems concerning constant notifications and unwanted monitoring. In this way, we can all stay safer while still retaining the ability to call for help and connect with friends and family who live far away. With this solution, we could still use devices such as computers and televisions to look up information and stream sports games and new seasons for our favorite shows, but we wouldn't have to deal with all the consequences that result from having these available at all times. Another, less extreme way in which each of us individually could help solve this issue is by deleting social media. Although it sounds scary, disconnecting from apps such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter could help solve the overall problems with smartphones. First of all, it would solve the issue concerning addiction to smartphones, because on average each person spends over 2 hours on social media every day. It would also help solve the issue of apps having access to each person's camera, because it's mostly social networking apps like Snapchat that require access to both the camera and the microphone. A big change that could really help with this issue nationally would be restricting access when it comes to the camera and microphone. Most people, when they agree to allow the use of these functions in an app, don't realize everything that this enables the app to do. So either apps that do this need to have a clear warning before asking for permission, or Apple and other smartphone companies need to talk to these companies and limit their access.